This is the Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Parramatta Leagues Club, home of the Eels, and also home of Jack's Pale Ale.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. Troy Warner here, and it is the Round Review Podcast, and it is round number 17, done and dusted. And look, we are on the, I guess there's 27 rounds, so 10 rounds to go, a few buys to go from teams. So it's coming down to the part of the season where you want to be humming and absolutely winning games and getting you concreted into that top 8, even if you are one of those top 4 teams as well, getting yourself concreted into that as well, because now is the serious time where you want to start, well, probably August more than likely, but every win now really counts as well. And look, it all started on Thursday night. It was the Panthers taking on the Bulldogs at CommBank Stadium, and what a cracker of a game that was. Absolutely. 8-6 victory to the Panthers. It was Nathan Cleary who scored the winning try, I guess you could say, after a penalty goal from Dylan Edwards in the 27th minute. He scored the try in the 53rd minute. It was a charge down, and the Panthers went on to hold on to that victory in front of 16,738 fans on a Thursday night. Not bad, but we did anticipate this game to be one of the best of the season. Look, it was 6-2 at halftime to the Bulldogs, and this was a real big test for the Bulldogs just to see where they are. The Panthers, they were seemingly wanting to they are sneaking up now in that top 8 of the competition at the moment. They are in 7th position, so I think they were in about 8th or so before the weekend anyway, but now they are in 7th position, and every other team is looking over their shoulders because they are on 19 points. The Roosters and Broncos are on 20 points at this point. Now, the Panthers, they do have a bye this weekend as well, so they, depending on results, will jump those two sides and go into 5th position. Now, we know that if no team has won a competition outside the top 4 in the NRL, but if you do finish 5th and 6th, you do get a home final as well. Now, obviously, it's not really a home final because they're playing out at CommBank Stadium, but nevertheless, it is still a home final for the Panthers, and I dare say their fans will turn up for that game. Jacob Preston, he scored the try for the Bulldogs, and look, the Bulldogs will be disappointed that they did lose, but they had their opportunities. One opportunity right at the end, and look, Casey McLean, the centre for the Panthers, he really did a job on Stephen Crichton. He had his hands full all night, but he stepped up and he just really defended well against Stephen Crichton, who you would have thought would have had it over him. But the youngster, he definitely stepped up in that game. He knew he had to, and he certainly did and delivered. The final pass out of the Bulldogs went over the sideline from Stephen Crichton, and that was all she wrote, and the Panthers march on for another victory. But, as I said, the Bulldogs, they'll be disappointed for losing that game, but they gave the Panthers a good run. They were a full-strength Panthers side, pretty much a full-strength Bulldogs side as well. So that is sort of semi-final football that we will see coming up in September. Now, the second game played on the weekend. Ooh, two struggling clubs, aren't they? The Sea Eagles and the West Tigers. So the West Tigers looking to avoid a 4th straight wooden spoon. This is their 6th loss in a row now for the Tigers. Does that put Coach Benji Marshall under pressure? It probably does a little bit, although CEO Shane Richardson has said that Benji Marshall's job is safe. But even if they do get a wooden spoon, but look, you'd have to think that he'd be under pressure, lots of pressure, as is the Sea Eagles. Anthony Seibold, he was under pressure as well. He needed this victory, and the team needed the victory as well. A positional change for Tom Trbojevic. He moved to the centres. Probably a good move as well, I guess, for Tommy with his injuries that he does have. Look, it was only 6-0 at half-time. It was a bit of a bummer of a first half, to be honest, and probably the whole game, to be honest. 17,055 fans turned up to 4 Pines Park. But look, it was a real dour game, and you could just see that these two sides are struggling at the moment. 6-0 at half-time. Jason Saab got a try right on half-time. For the Tigers, Alex Seyfarth and Talon De Silva, he got a try in what would be his last game for the West Tigers. As of today, officially signed with the Parramatta Eels until the end of 2029. So a good get there for the Parramatta Eels, and a loss for the West Tigers, but he scored a try in that game, his last game for the Tigers, so he will now be a Parramatta Eel as of today. He'll be training with the Eels this week. The Eels have a bye this week, so he won't be playing this week, or he might play New South Wales Cup, potentially, but not first grade. But look, a good get for the Eels. The Sea Eagles, look, I guess it's a good win for them, a confidence booster, especially going into next week's game. I think they play South Sydney. The second game on Friday night, well, look, what a game that was as well. It was the Beanies for, and I must say the whole round was actually Beanies for Brain Cancer round, and congratulations to everyone who contributed by buying a beanie. I think Mark Hughes said they raised something like $3.5 million, I think, this round. Or it could be 2.7. I'm not 100% sure on the figures. You can still donate to the Mark Hughes Foundation as well, through buying beanies, and also donations on the website as well. So check that one out if you just want to make a donation. A great effort, but look, it's always an emotional night up at Newcastle with this game. The big three trekkers, they make their way into the stadium after walking from Sydney 150 Ks, 3-day event, which is much appreciated by the Mark Hughes Foundation and raised lots of funds as well. And look, it was 22-18 to the Raiders. So the Newcastle Knights, they put up a big fight, but the big talking point out of this game in front of 17,527 fans was the fact that Kalen Ponga, their Knights fullback, suffered a Liz Frank injury, ankle injury, and he's going to be out for an extended period now. That is not good news for the Newcastle Knights, obviously, as he is their star player, but also for you Queensland fans as well, because obviously he's missing Origin now. Replaced at fullback by the Hamaso Tabuai-Fidow, who celebrated in style. We'll get to that game very, very shortly. But yeah, a massive blow for the Newcastle Knights. It was 16-0 at half-time. The Newcastle Knights, they came back out after half-time, and they scored the first try in the second half to James Schiller just to get back into the game. So you could almost say it was like 18-6 in the second half to Newcastle. But look, it was too late. Jed Stewart scored the last try, son of Ricky Stewart. And a funny thing actually happened throughout this weekend. Jed Stewart scored a try there for the Raiders, and in front of his dad, Ricky Stewart. Nathan Cleary scored a try in front of Ivan Cleary, and one of the games on Saturday, which we'll get to, the Dragons and the Eels, the Kyle Flanagan scored a try in front of his dad, Shane Flanagan. So look, 3 tries to 3 sons of coaches in the NRL, something that probably hasn't happened before and probably won't happen again, or it might happen again, you never know. We'll just have to wait and see. But the Raiders, look, they are looking pretty good, and look, they're playing a good style of football. They've still got 2 buys up their sleeve as well. They sit on top of the NRL ladder on for and against, and look, they are looking really good at the moment to take out this premiership. They just have to stay healthy, and they could go a long way. They could be a little bit of a smoky. I don't know how they'll go up against Penrith and Melbourne and the like in finals, but they certainly will give it one hell of a good shake. So that was that game up there in Newcastle. The next game, well, this was the Broncos and Warriors, 2 big contenders, I guess you could say, for this competition. The Broncos sitting in 5th spot. 43,424 fans saw the first game that was played at Suncorp Stadium. Something a little bit unusual and probably hasn't happened before is the fact that they were having another game after this one at the 7:30 p.m. time slot between the between the Warriors. What am I doing? Between the Dolphins and South Sydney, as that was the relocated game. So what they had to do is they had to get this crowd of 43,424 out of the gates, out of the stadium, do a bit of a clean-up, and then get ready for the Dolphins game. Unbelievable effort. Congratulations to all the stadium staff there getting it prepped for that game. But the Broncos game, Shibasaki, he scored a double and has earned himself selection into the Queensland State of Origin side. So well done to him. 18-0 at half-time. The Warriors, look, they are struggling at the moment with injuries. Mitch Barnett's already gone for the season. And now, unfortunately, it looks like Luke Metcalf, who was leading the Dally M's Player of the Year award before it went under closed doors, has gone off with a ACL injury as well. So not good news for the Warriors, that is for sure. So Charles Nickel-Coxter, he also went off with a knee injury as well. So I'm not too sure about the extent of that one, but certainly 2 star players out for the Warriors. So look, it's going to be interesting to see how they can bounce back next week the week after the bye, and just see how they go without 2 of their key players there, especially their halfback. So they are in 4th position on the ladder at the moment. I think 4 points clear of 5th spot, but there's still, I think, 10 games to go. So interesting to see how they will finish off the season without their chief playmaker in Luke Metcalf. The Broncos back into form, I guess you could say, playing some good footy, and are they going to be the team to beat in September as well in that charge to the premiership? Well, they certainly have turned a corner, haven't they? Because they went through that little struggling period. Reece Walsh was injured, and look, he has made a big difference to this side coming back from injury. So, look, is he the answer to the Broncos' problems? They are certainly playing better with him in this side, and they are getting victories. So 18-0 at half-time. The game was won in the first half. The Warriors, they came back a little bit in the second half to win 12 points to 8 in that second half, but the damage was already done in that first half. So the Broncos, they march on. The second game on Super Saturday was the game that I was invested in, and it was the Eels taking on the Dragons down there at Wynn Stadium in front of 18,191 fans. Congratulations to all those Parramatta fans who went down there and witnessed the loss there in cold conditions. But look, all the damage was done in the first half an hour. First 33 minutes of the game, 26-4 at half-time. Nathan Lawson, who got the call-up about 4 minutes before the kickoff with Tuipulotu out of this game in the warm-up. 4 minutes knowledge of playing. He gets the call-up and he scored the first 2 tries of the game. Unbelievable. I think Sir George scored off the first set, so the first set that they had anyway, because Parramatta had the ball off the kickoff. Kyle Flanagan, as I mentioned, scored a try as well, so probably put those critics to bed for a little bit anyway. It was great to see Kyle get on the score sheet and get a try. Some really good football from Kyle there. Josh Adokar, talking point in the game, it was 26-20 and Sean Russell goes over to score a try, but Josh Adokar's foot was deemed to be out. Now, you guys tell me in or out. I've got my blue and gold glasses on, and I say his foot was in. It didn't help him having white boots on a white touchline as well. But I swear there is a little bit of grass that you can see there, but the touch judge called him to be out, and you can't go back. And once the touch judge has made a ruling like that one, put his flag up, the bunker can't get involved. So, and true to Parramatta knowledge, or to Parramatta standards, I guess, that rule is looking to be changed. So, trust good old Parramatta to be suffering like that, and then the rule to be changed. If the rule's to be changed, then perhaps the bunker can go back and have a look at it. And look, they might change the decision. They might say it's inconclusive evidence. Who knows? But it certainly was a changing point of the game, simply because it could have got Parramatta back to 26-all, and it would have been a different game. Valentine Holmes, he scored the match-winning try, yes, you could say, after Zach Lomax took the ball up. It was a good break from Kelma Tuilagi, and then a couple of sets of hands went out to Zach Lomax. Zach Lomax looked like he was being tackled, managed to get the ball away. It probably wasn't the best of offloads and the time to do an offload, and unfortunately Val Holmes scooped up the ball, ran away, I think about 70 metres, and scored the try, which wrapped up the game. So, unfortunately, Parramatta go down. The Dragons, they get a much-needed win down at home. The last game, as I mentioned, on Super Saturday was up at Suncorp Stadium. Only 22,041 fans for this game, but it was the Dolphins. They put on another 50-point display against the Rabbitohs. So that's, I think, about 3 teams that put 50 on. They know how to score points. As I mentioned, that man, Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow, he scored 4 tries in his 100th NRL game, so congratulations to him. Cody Nikorima, he scored a try as well. Unfortunately, he went off with what looks like to be a hamstring injury, so a big blow for the Dolphins there moving forward. Not too sure how many weeks he will be out for. Jermaine Osako, he was a bit of a super boot on the weekend, 8 out of 8, and 1 penalty goal as well. It was 30-6 at half time. You did not know where the Rabbitohs were going to come back from this one, but 2 quick tries to Tallis Duncan in the 52nd and 54th minute, and you thought, oh, okay, they're getting a bit of momentum here. Who knows what's going to happen, but the Hammer, he scored a try in the 62nd, and then Kurt Donahue, he scored a great try in the 72nd minute, a bit of an intercept, and ran away with it. So, look, the Dolphins, plenty of people have said it before, but Isaiah Katoa, he is just at a young age playing some unbelievable football. So much so, I think he's been called into the New South Wales side as just to get a feel of state of origin football, be in and around the camp, see how state of origin footballers prepare for a massive deciding game. So that will only enhance his knowledge, I guess you could say, and his learnings, and it's only going to be better for the Dolphins. So, look, they could be a little bit of a smoky for the competition, could you say? I don't know. Maybe this year is going to be their first year of finals football, but look, they've suffered a lot of injuries as well in their side. So, unfortunately, Cody Nikorima just adds to it adds to the list. So hopefully he's not out too long for you Dolphins fans. The Rabbitohs, well, Latrell Mitchell, he tried his heart out. Can't do everything, I guess, but he certainly was involved. It was the first time this season, I think it was, that they had their full-strength backline in. That couldn't save them. 50 points to 28. You'd think if you scored 28 points in a game that you would win a game, but it wasn't to be. The Dolphins, they put another 50-point display on. They know how to score points. So, unfortunately for the Rabbitohs, they sit second last on the table, and it is going to be worrying for them at the moment. The first game on Sunday, well, this was a bit of a grudge match, wasn't it? The Sharks taking on the Storm down there at Amy Park in Melbourne. 21,399. It was 5 tries to 1. The Melbourne Storm, they are really humming at this point in time, just waiting for finals football. They are building a bit of a fortress down there at Amy Park. As we know, it is hard to win down there. Parramatta got flogged in the first round down there. But a lot of teams have been flogged down there too, by the way. 10-6 at half-time, and you thought, okay, maybe still could be anybody's game, but then the Melbourne Storm, they just put on a clinic in that second half. The only unfortunate thing to come out of that was probably Suafai-Longo. Looks like to be a hamstring injury as well, so there was a lot of hamstring injuries this weekend. And unfortunately, it looks like he is another victim of a hamstring injury, so he'll be out for a few weeks, that is for sure. But the Melbourne Storm, as I said, they're just waiting for September football, I guess, and try and get revenge and win a premiership after making the grand final in 2024. The Sharks, where do they go from here? They are really suffering at the moment. They were fancied to be one of the competition favourites, but they just cannot get much needed victories. I don't know where they go. Nico Hines, a lot of pressure on him. There's been calls for maybe him to go back to fullback. Where do you put Will Kennedy? Is it Nico Hines? Is it Braden Trindle? It's just a very hard thing at the moment for the Melbourne Storm. For the Cronulla Sharks as to where they go from here. So it'll be interesting to see what Craig Fitzgibbon comes up with in terms of to get their confidence back and to get back in the winner's circle, because at the moment, unfortunately, they're just not doing it, and I don't know where they go from here. They're still in they've actually dropped out of the top 8, so they're in 10th position at the moment. So they've got a bye this weekend, so hopefully they can regroup and then take it on in the next round, in round number 19. The next game that was played on the Sunday was the Titans and the Cowboys. Now, these are two sides that were really struggling. Two sides that practically had defended and attacked the same number of points going into this game. 13,882. Conditions were atrocious at times, with a lot of rain coming down. It was a win to the Cowboys, 30 points to 24. The Cowboys, they were travelling, cruising at one stage. They scored the first 3 tries of the game. First 4 tries of the game. Got out to a massive lead. But then the Titans, AJ Brimson scored, Jojo Fafita scored, and you thought, okay, the Titans are getting a little bit of a roll on here. Can the Cowboys hold on? 12-6 at half-time. Still anybody's game, but the Cowboys, they'll be disappointed with that. Look, they'll be happy that they got the win, but disappointed that it ended up like that, because they were in control of this game and they let the Titans back into it. So Yeah, I mean, the Titans, they still sit on the bottom of the ladder. The Cowboys, a much-needed win for them after having some losses in a row. And, yeah, look, it wasn't a very entertaining game. There was, I guess, 9 tries scored, but it just shows you where these two teams are at the moment. So, as I said, confidence win for the Cowboys. The Titans, where do they go from here? Is Des Hasler going to be around next season? Just have to wait and see at the end of the season, I guess. And then if he does get the sack, who takes over his position as head coach? Does that mean that Kevin Walters, perhaps, maybe? A Queenslander coaching a Queensland side. You would think that he's Broncos through and through, but he wants to get back into the NRL. His name was thrown about for the Bears job before Mal Meninga got it, so you would think that he would want to coach in the NRL again, and if that means coaching the Titans, well, so be it. He'll coach the Titans, I guess, but I don't know where they go from here. The Titans, it's going to be a long season for them. I think they've got the bye this week, and the Cowboys have got the Storm at home, but they are both without their best players because of Origin as well. Now, if we go to the judiciary charges for the week, and Kelma Tuilagi from the Parramatta Eels is facing 3 weeks on the sideline for a grade 2 crusher tackle on Jack de Belin. Jack Williams was charged as well, but he will get a fine for that. He had a grade 1 careless high tackle, but he will just pay a fine for that one. Britton Nicola has been charged with a grade 2 dangerous contact. He will have a fine as well. Brian Kelly faces a $1,000 fine for a dangerous throw. Heath Mason faces a ban for contrary conduct towards a match official. I think he pushed the referee at one stage there when Manly were scoring, I think. Pushed referee Gerard Sutton. Phoenix Crossland was also charged with a grade 1 careless high tackle on Corey Horsburgh. He faces a fine. Viliami Kikau, he was charged with the careless high tackle, and on Nathan Cleary, his former teammate, and he will face a $800 fine, so he'll probably just pay that one. So that is your judiciary report. Now to the ladder, and as I mentioned before, the Canberra Raiders, they are on top on 28 points. Also on 28 points, the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, who have been leading the competition for most of the season. The Melbourne Storm and New Zealand Warriors round out the top 4. The Warriors on 24 points. The Broncos and Roosters are on 20 points each in 5th and 6th position. The Panthers, they've climbed the ladder to 19 points in 7th position. And then Dolphins round out the top 8 with 3 other sides. The Sea Eagles, Sharks, Dragons. But because of their dominant for and against, then they are on plus 162 points. So they are massively in front, which putting these big scores on teams has really helped them. They are in 8th position. The Sea Eagles, Sharks and Dragons, as I mentioned, on 18 points, are in 9th, 10th and 11th. The Cowboys on 17 points on 12th. The Knights, Tigers and Eels on 14 points are on 13th, 14th and 15th. And the Rabbitohs are also on 14 points in 16th, and the Titans round out the ladder on 17 points. Now, if we look to next week's games, and look, it is an Origin-affected week with 7 sides having the bye. Only the 5 games this weekend, and as I mentioned, Origin stars are out of this weekend. The Bulldogs and Broncos, which is a shame to see so many players out of that game. Raiders and Dragons, Cowboys and Storm, Roosters and Tigers, Sea Eagles and Rabbitohs rounds out the round. Dolphins, Eels, Knights, Panthers, Sharks, Titans and Warriors have the bye. So that is your round 18 forecast. Thank you very much for listening to this NRL round review of round number 17. I hope your team did get up. Unfortunately, mine didn't, but nevertheless, we will back it up with a win in a couple of weeks' time after having the bye. I don't know what I'm going to do this weekend, actually. With probably to watch the football, but not Parramatta, so I might actually enjoy the football, actually. No, I enjoy the football every week, even though Parramatta don't win every game. I do enjoy the football anyway. Anyway, thank you very much. The Para Cave podcast by the fan, for the fans. Go Para! How you going, mate? Are you a Para Cave podcast listener?
I am, bro. It's a great podcast. Everyone tune in.
Go Para!
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Para Cave podcast. See you next time.